Hi guys, this is Tristan Bond, Director of Healthcare Business Coaching, and in this video you're going to be learning about systems and the systematization of your private practice. So let's start off with what the definition is of a system. A system is a step-by-step process that you follow in order to complete a particular task so that you get a specific outcome time and time again in your practice. Now, instead of reinventing the wheel each time that you have to do something, with a system, you can have a written and specific checklist of steps that you or your staff member follows in order to complete the task your way. So you see, in a practice, as we all know, if the business owner is doing a particular task, or if the practice manager is doing it versus one of our front of staff members or associate consultants or practitioners, we can notice if 5 people do the same task, we often end up with 5 different outcomes. And the reason for that is there's 5 different methodologies there. So what we need to do is systematize these important processes which lead to the running of our practice to get the best possible outcome. And there's no person better than to determine the system than the actual practice owner, which is you guys. So by having a system in place, it's a documented way of everyone following a process and doing it your way. By creating these systems in place in your practice, you can easily teach someone else how to do the things that you would be doing, and then hand over the task so that you can actually have more time to focus on more important things like the actual running of the business, practice and marketing planning, and of course spending time away from your practice whilst having the confidence that your practice is running beautifully, so that you can be spending time with your family, you can be spending time with your friends, and you can be away holidaying and pursuing a lot of your hobbies. So a really good analogy I like to use with my clients is looking at a business with systems versus a business without systems. Now, a business without systems in place is quite simply very similar to taking the stairs to the 35th building, 35th floor of a building. It's incredibly difficult. It's slow, it's tedious, it takes a hell of a lot of time and effort, and it's very, very frustrating. So, whereas a business with a system in place, it's like taking the elevator. Instead of walking up a spiral staircase and going round and round in circles, you take the direct path, a straight line, to accomplish your tasks. And here's the kicker. Virtually anyone who gets in the lift and presses the button can go to the 35th floor. So developing systems and having these in place and documenting them and training your staff, it's developing a process that virtually anyone can follow, so you can actually make the business less dependent on you as the business owner. So let's have a think about it. Why have systems in place? Too often, you as the business owner are the business. You wear too many or even all of the hats of running the business. Now, systems allow you to easily teach others to do many of your daily, weekly, monthly, annual, biannual tasks, so you don't have to worry about them yourself. You can actually achieve a lot more in a much shorter space of time, which makes you more effective, more efficient, and ultimately more profitable, and gives you a much greater sense of enjoyment from owning a business rather than just having a job. Without having these systems in place, most people tend to run out of time. The number one thing I'm hearing from really proactive and dedicated business owners right now is simply there isn't enough time in the day. Now, when I sit these people down and we actually run through an analysis of what we could systematize, that's how we find time. Okay? Do you ever hear yourself using that excuse that there's just not enough time in the day? Well, I hear it all the time. So that means it's a great opportunity for you now to start looking at what can you further systematize so you can actually delegate it out to someone else within your business so you can find that time to do the things that you really, really need to be doing. Without having these in place, it can really feel like you're always working and never making a huge amount of progress. So this really is about leveraging your time so you can achieve much greater things with your business. By taking the time to document every step you have to do in order to achieve a certain goal, you're going to be considering up your time considerably in the future. So if someone comes to you tomorrow at your practice and they've got a question for you, and it could be relating to any of the day-to-day management tasks of your practice, you end up explaining it to them in quite a lot of specific detail, you run them through it, and then you assess them on it. So that takes time. Chances are, though, unfortunately, that same staff member will come back to you, if not the next day, probably within a week and certainly within a month, to ask you how to run that same process again. And also, on top of that, you'll have other staff members asking you the exact same question about the same process. So if you actually want to free up your time, because you're going to be explaining it the first time around anyway, why not take the time to document that process so you can actually teach everyone how to do it properly? So if someone else comes to you with the same question, you can say, hey, here's the system, please read about it. You have it set up as either a Word document, or you can have it set up in a cloud for everyone to access, or like we do, you can actually have a video set up for your staff to follow, a step-by-step guide on how to achieve it. So by taking the time to really document every step that you have to do to achieve a certain goal, you're going to free up heaps of time in the future. A lot of my clients start off as being sole traders, which leads to this problem down the track of lack of systematization. So as a sole trader, you tend to do everything yourself. You're treating patients, you're answering the phone, you're doing your marketing, you're doing all of your PR, you're doing your accounting, doing the billing, doing everything. So you become very adept at managing all the tasks of your practice. But unfortunately, you end up in this habit of micromanagement as well. So as you grow from being a sole trader to, say, having, first of all, a part-time secretary, full-time secretary, a number of secretaries, a few assistants on, then also other practitioners working for you, up to the level of having multiple practices, and then as some of my clients right now looking at franchising their businesses. In order to get from that level of sole trader upwards, if you don't have systems in place, you simply can't micromanage that many people or that many premises, or you will ultimately become very ineffective and your business will certainly stop growing at a fast rate and possibly even fail. So in order to get from being that sole trader level up to a much higher business level, you really need to document the systems for each and every aspect of your business, or you're going to end up quite simply with a job and not a business. A job is really restricted by billable hours, your availability. It's restrictive in terms of offering not much time off, not much level of enjoyment if you're always chained to the business, whereas owning a business has a limitless ceiling. There's huge potential for enormous financial rewards, a lot of holidays and time off. It enables you to be the leader of your business and really push that vision, and it gives you the ability to pursue what you really enjoy. So if you choose the latter, which I'm sure all of you have because you're listening to this video right now, to choose the latter, which is to own a business and not have a job, then right now you need to firmly commit to having systems in place in your practice. So let's push on to the next step. How do we actually start creating systems in your practice? So let's look at that definition again. So by understanding the definition, that'll help us have a really good place to start. A system is a repeated course of action. It's a way of doing things that brings about a result. So everything that we do on a daily basis is a system, but it is either an intentional or an unintentional system. So the goal for everyone is to actually get rid of these unintentional systems and make everything intentional in a way that all of our staff can follow it accurately and get a really great result for our patients and our business as well. So let's look at an intentional system. An intentional system is a structured process that has an outcome in mind with a documented methodology behind it. So we can look at a few different examples here, and we'll keep it really basic so that everyone can relate to this. An intentional system could be, say, if a price-sensitive patient rings up on the phone and they've got a query about payment or a certain level of health cover or a type of therapy, and they're asking about price, and they've indicated that certainly a higher price is going to be a limiting factor to them coming in. So an intentional system for this particular issue would be having a talk track, so a scripted phone management process of knowing how to deal with a price-sensitive inquiry that leads to the patient feeling comfortable about coming in, comfortable about paying the price that you charge, and they're happy to come in and try the benefits that you believe that you can offer to this particular patient. So that's an intentional system, and it could be documented so that anyone who answers the phone can refer to that, and obviously you train your staff to manage that appropriately. So that's an intentional system. Whereas an unintentional system would be having any of your number of front of staff or therapists or practice managers answering the phone and dealing with a particular issue, but having them not have a followed system, documented system, so they might actually be winging it each time. So if they have a different method each time, we're going to get a different outcome every time. So an intentional versus an unintentional system, even with phone management, reaps a much different reward for you as a practice owner. So by having an intentional phone system, we find that we can get 30% more phone conversions from our inquiries. So we're spending money already attracting these patients to our practice, so it makes a whole lot of sense to me to have an intentional phone system so we actually get these people through. In terms of price sensitivity, you could also have an intentional system for managing those people at your practice, what sort of language you use with them, how you deal with any objections or any concerns they might have them all documented so that they can be delivered with the best manner in order to get the best result for your practice each time. Whereas not having them documented, anything wide and varied results could be occurring at the front desk at your practice, which is going to mean up and down results, which is obviously not ideal. So any part of your day-to-day activity at the practice that has an effect on your revenue needs to have an intentional system in place. All your results will be up and down like a yo-yo, and you'll spend a lot of time putting fires out, so that your business will actually either stagnate or not grow, and certainly won't be growing at the rate that you want to. So you need to look right now at all the systems in your practice that leads to generating more revenue, and then systematize it. So some examples are systematizing the phone management process, systematizing within that how to deal with separate types of inquiries, and systematizing the welcoming process to a patient when they arrive. The same goes for when they leave the practice, what sort of farewell you give them. There could be a systematized process for the way that your therapists greet the patient and take them through to the rooms, and then how they farewell them at the end of the consult, and how they deal with certain issues that a patient might be bringing up. You might find some therapists deal with it incredibly well, whereas others don't. So we need to make sure that everyone's following a system to get the best possible outcome. So you need to look at anything and everything which contributes to your revenue and ultimately your business growth and systematize it. Another really big one to look at is systematizing the way in which we present certain treatment options and other products to patients. You might find that some of your staff sell a lot more high-end product or high-end treatment to our patients, whereas others don't so much. So we need to look at why is that? What is it that our real high achievers are doing, which our other staff members aren't doing? And how do we systematize it and bottle it so that we can teach our other staff members to do it, so that everyone lifts their level, thereby giving the patient a better result and also improving the business. So that's just a few ideas to start. And as you start going through the next task tomorrow, you'll find there are a lot of things you haven't been looking at before that must be systematized. So what do we need to do about it? Well, point number one, begin tomorrow with this phrase in your head. This has to be your mantra. Everything I see in my business is actually a system. So write that down. Everything I see in my business is actually a system. Point number two, identify the good systems that you or someone else does that gets the results that you as a business owner want. Document this good system and teach it so that all of the relevant staff members know how to perform this every single time. Point number three, find the hidden or unintentional systems in your business. So these are things that are happening every day, but there's no real documented process. So one secretary might be billing someone in a certain manner, but there's no particular process behind it, whereas the next secretary might come over and do it totally differently. So that's an unintentional system. Examine these unintentional systems and assess if they are yielding the best possible result for you. Check if they're getting the results that you desire as the business owner. Now think about it. If this process could be changed to get better results, then change it. Document it, teach it, and then refine it so that all your staff members are actually constantly improving. You might find you do have systems in place that are actually intentional on many occasions, but you could still refine them and improve them further. Let's think about if we find, say, 5 things in the business that improve or contribute to revenue, then we tweak them so we get just an increase of 5 to 10% improvement from each system. Now, by doing that with 5 different systems, at the end of the day, that really does add up and makes a huge difference to your quality of life and obviously the profits and revenue that you're getting out of your business. Point number 4, observe your staff's performance and see if there is someone that's not following the system that you've got in place. Now, you need to educate them about how to follow the desired and intentional system. But having all of your intentional systems documented, and like I said, you could have it on video as well, or on audio if your staff to refer back to, have it available readily in a cloud so they can all log into it. It's much easier then to give feedback to your staff members, as you can compare their methodology to the documented methodology that you've recorded and put in place, and then obviously your staff will be able to see if they're on track or not. Whereas if it's unintentional and it's not documented, they're just taking your word for it and they're not really knowing which direction they should be pushing on with. So those practices that really push to the highest levels have got well documented and practiced systems and methodologies in place. Without having these systems in place, there is no way that they would be at the level that they are right now, nor would they be enjoying the rewards of their great successes either, which they all are doing. So in a nutshell here, guys, systems really help to support the vision and passion of you and your business so that you can build your business to a higher level than you ever thought possible. Here's an analogy for you and something to think about. We all approach our patients with precise and well-documented systems, and this leads to the best possible assessment, most accurate diagnoses, best treatment planning, and best patient outcomes. So we know that we'd never wing it when it comes to our patient management. So why do so many of us wing it when it comes to running our business? You need to approach the running of your business with the same passion and dedication that you'd be approaching your patients with, because this is what's going to get you the best possible result for your business, and that enables us to keep treating more patients and getting better results with our patients. So start documenting all those steps that we've gone through, and I look forward to getting some great feedback from you on that, guys.